In Washington tonight, all eyes on what's about to happen. The article of impeachment walked over to the Senate by Democrats, a trial looming in what is still, of course, a 50-50 split Senate that Democrats will control with the help of Vice President Harris. Now, one reason the trial starts in 2 weeks is the Biden agenda, his first major bill, putting $1 trillion into COVID and jobs relief. Meanwhile, a newly minted Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, shows that old habits die hard. We just touched on him briefly in the opening of the program. Well, look at what he's doing now. He says he won't even agree to a standard power sharing agreement, which will stop the 50-50 Senate to a halt. And in the meantime, until they work something out, the old committee chairs who were Republicans from last year stay in power. Now, Mitch McConnell has touted himself as the Grim Reaper. That's not some nickname we're using. That's his own self-nickname, if you ever know anyone who gives himself nicknames. But it's his point of saying he will always put to death Democratic ideas, he'll play hardball, and he will hold on tight to the antiquated filibuster that has turned, under abuse, into something of a permanent supermajority requirement. McConnell now is hoping that the longer he can just keep the Senate at an impasse over these rules may slow down the jumpstart of the Biden agenda. Now, McConnell did lose. He's in the minority. The Democrats have a range of powers to deal with the Grim Reaper. Will they use them? We have a very special conversation planned right now. We're going to learn something because we're joined by Adam Gentleson, who had the powerful position as Deputy Chief of Staff to Senate Leader Harry Reid. We are also joined by Jason Johnson. I should mention Adam's new book is Kill Switch, about the filibuster as a political weapon. Jason, how you doing?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. We have a new functional democracy. It puts a smile on my face.
Your thoughts first on this impasse with McConnell.
I mean, it's to be expected. And look, Ari, we've been saying this from jump. If Joe Biden thought he was going to come in and be able to sort of chum it up with some of these senators on the Republican side because they used to play squash and racquetball back in the 90s, this is throwing water in his face. And he should know that this is just the beginning. Mitch McConnell will look through every single arcane rule he can. He will look through every single dusty parliamentary piece of parchment he can get his hands on to keep the transfer of power from being functional. So I'm not surprised about this filibuster rule. I'm not surprised he's going to be difficult in other ways. But I think the Democrats need to make sure that everything that they do is put through policies-wise with the assumption that Republicans will not work with them. They cannot ever assume that they'll ever be able to work with Republicans, and they can't ever assume that even if Republicans say that they'll work with them, that they'll actually follow through when it comes time to vote.
And so that's, I think, a take that a lot of viewers can understand from someone in the news, Jason Johnson, that people know. Adam, some people may know you less because you were busy working inside government, behind the scenes. You're here tonight because you know how some of these rules work better than just about anyone. Please explain to us what you see as the actual options for the Democrats if they're united, because people would rightly ask, okay, I get that it's close, but if you won Georgia and Mitch McConnell's just holding out, can they roll him and reform the filibuster now?
They can roll him and reform the filibuster now if they choose to. The question is whether they will choose to do that. I think that's probably unlikely on this immediate fight, but I think that that's likely to come to a head.
Let me just start you, though. Yeah, just let me start you, though, on the rules. You're saying, though, that if they hold the 50 votes,
yes,
they could just say to Mitch McConnell, oh, I understand you want to keep the filibuster. 50 of us have the answer is no, and they can go right ahead today if they want. Is that right under the rules?
Yes.
Walk us through how that would work, and then bring us up to your other point.
Sure. So that what you just described is what's commonly known, somewhat hyperbolically, as the nuclear option. But this is the decision by the Senate to cast a vote on a majority vote basis to change the rules. This can be done at any time. This is what Senator Reid did to lower the threshold to a simple majority for passing nominations in 2013. It's what Senator McConnell did to lower the threshold for confirming Supreme Court nominations in 2017. So, you know, if Democrats decide they want to do it, it is completely within their power to tell McConnell to take a hike on the organizing resolution, bring the resolution that they would like to see passed to the floor. When it's blocked by Republicans, because under current rules, it needs 60 votes to pass. When it fails to get 60 votes, Democrats can then implement this nuclear option of voting by a majority vote to change Senate rules and allow that organizing resolution and everything else legislatively to pass on a majority vote basis. That would essentially get rid of the filibuster, at least in its modern version, where it requires you to get 60 votes to pass things.
And so what you're educating us on, because it gets into the weeds, is while technically there is a standoff under these rules, and if it were last year, the Democrats wouldn't be able to necessarily change that. That's the leverage McConnell's using, because we're at the start of the new Senate. If they want to, they can just do what you just described. The parliamentarian rules that as allowed. New sheriff in town, new rules. You know the old expression in parliamentary procedure, I'm sure you do, Adam, new rules, who dis?
Yes, that's a common procedure. I think it's in Robert's Rules of Order, somewhere towards the middle.
Yeah, Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah. No, I think...
So now I give you the floor back. Well, let me give you the floor back for where I think you were going, which is anyone hearing this then says, okay, you won the election. We know what we just lived through. You have the power to do it. Why aren't they doing it yet? Should they do it as an insider? You're familiar with these things. What do you think? And then, Jason, your thoughts as well.
I mean, I think that the short answer to why they're not doing it is they don't currently have the votes to do it. There's some Senate Democrats who are reluctant to take this maneuver and take it this far. Just today, Senator Sinema from Arizona said that she doesn't want to do it. Joe Manchin has been very vocal that he doesn't want to do it. And this is going to be a process. And look, if Republicans decide to cooperate all of a sudden, I think this is very unlikely, then I think it won't happen. But I think what's likely to happen is that Republicans will continue to obstruct. Mitch McConnell decided to manufacture this fight over the organizing resolution out of nowhere. He could have just passed it. So they're picking fights everywhere they can. They're obstructing Biden and obstructing Senate Democrats. Democrats, as you said, are now in control. They can set the rules. The Senate, as I explained in the book, is an evolving body. This has been done many times before. It is entirely within keeping of the traditions of the institution to choose to change the rules in this way. New Senate, new rules, who dis. That is actually something that used to be the case, where they would change the rules at the beginning of the Senate. So, it's entirely within the keeping of the traditions of the institution. They wanted to do this. It's just about finding the political courage and for circumstances to converge on Senate Democrats to force the issue and get them to yes.
Yeah, and Jason, it sounds like we're talking about rules, and we are, but we're also not. We're talking about whether the will of the voters from November and December will be carried out on a majority basis or not. We're talking about whether this COVID bill for people who are hurting will be passed. We're talking about a jobs bill. We're talking about civil rights. We're talking about police reform. We're talking about the whole enchilada. And as Adam's showing everyone, Mitch McConnell has deliberately decided to make this the delay tactic now. Your view, Jason?
Stimulus checks, defund ICE, the Democrats can do whatever they like. They really can at this point. It's just a matter of if they've got enough people who are willing to actually recognize power. Like, when you have a party that seems to have been just getting beaten on by Mitch McConnell and the Republicans for so long, they don't seem to recognize that they actually have a mandate from the American people. The elections in Georgia made it clear that even after seeing the results, Americans wanted more of that Democratic stuff. So whether it's Kristen Sinema or it's Manchin of West Virginia, the Democrats have to rally together and recognize we've got 18 months to actually show we know how to run this country. If they acquiesce to what Mitch McConnell wants, they will fail. And they won't just fail to protect the country. They will fail to maintain their majority, because in 2 years, they will lose some of these seats. They will lose some of these positions they're in if they haven't shown the American people that they can govern and solve problems.
And I just want to play one more thing. I'm running over on time, but we did pull something that I think people should see, and it goes to Adam's point, which is factual, not partisan, which is there's been 50-50 Senate splits before. Previously, they moved forward. There was no person like McConnell trying to demand one more hostage. This is Daschle and Lott, 2001 50-50 split. Take a look.
This really comes down to two words: good faith. I hope not only by our actions today, but by our actions over the course of the next 2 years, we can demonstrate without equivocation that that good faith was warranted.
We have sought common ground, and we've been able to find it.
Adam, just In a final moment we have here, in a sentence or two, your bottom line of what that shows compared to McConnell today.
Yeah, that was a different era. It's the partisan polarization that has set in on the Senate is far more severe today than even it was 20 years ago. Republicans, every incentive, I mean, you can blame them because they're human beings who are making these choices in their lives, but the incentives that are operating on them, that are pulling them to obstruct, are so powerful that it's impossible to expect them to overcome them. I'm not saying that excuses them, but that's a reality that Democrats need to face and construct their strategy accordingly.